Hello, good afternoon, all. So, today I am going to speak about how the big data can help in natural hazard modeling, its challenges and opportunities for the machine learning technique. Myself, Dr. Polami, working as an assistant professor at Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, in the Land and Water Resources Department. And so, my research area mostly on the extreme events and the natural hazard management field. So, I will first speak about how the situation of the water resources at the 21st century and the societal grand challenges. So now, if you see at the Global Risk Report of the 2021, that is the 16th edition, you'll find that, so this is in the x-axis, the likelihood of the risk, and the y-axis, it is the impact. So now, uh, so if you see this one, the geophysical disaster and other disaster resource, the digital power concentration, so those are at the lower half, and at the higher half, so it is the extreme weather events, the biodiversity losses, natural hazard crisis, environmental risk are that take up the higher impact event. So this is at the tail probability the higher risk, and at the lower tail it is the lower risk event. So this is the climate action failure and the infectious disease because of the COVID-19. So that actually affect the risk profile for today's 21st century. Now, if I zoom this window, so here at this part, so you can see this is the extreme weather, human environmental damage, biodiversity losses, natural resources crisis. So those are coming at the lower panel. So this is the impact and this is the at likelihood, and at higher risk you have mostly the climate action failure and infectious diseases that's contributing the significant amount of the risk profile. So and now in the today's society, it is that there was a clear ties between the today's extreme and the human causes. So that is shown by the Red Cross, that shown by the many researcher today, and it is also a kind of a slogan for the Red Cross Society today. So there is a clear correspondence between the extreme and the human action, and we have to work together uh, to avoid such kind of a situation to go into the sustainable. Now coming to how the interconnected natural and built environment system could result in the large scale cascade failure. So here I will say about two kind of extreme. One is the low and another is the high. So the heat waves, the drying of water bodies, agricultural water demand. So those are interlinked together. When soil dry up, this is because of the heat waves. So and then there is a pumping. There is an increase in agricultural water demand because of the energy sector is also linked here. And now the severe heat and water stress is actually a threat to a power plant sector. So based upon this, we build up a scarcer and warmer water. So that is actually contributing the risk. So the water stress risk map can be built up here. And so this is a streams temperature here, which when exceeds the EPA specified limit. So this causes a significant closure of the power plant risk operation. So this is the water stress area, so that we identify here this part of this globe. So now this is the second half of this is the heavy precipitation. So now the heavy precipitation, river flood, so all these factors are interlinked together. And now another is the because of the tropical cyclone induced storm surges. So storm surges and the SLR, the sea level rise. Now when the river flood is linked with the storm surges and the SLR, so that leads to a significant impact in the projected flood risk mapping. So this is our working paper. So where we are working on the compound risk assessment of the interconnected hazard. So as the projected heat flood risk map. So where we are looking at how the pluvial and the fluvial flood together contribute the hazard assessment, and that based upon that we are trying to build up or delineate the flood zone map for the lower delta region of the. Now, the learning the record breaking events motivate actually the notion of big data and the small data problem. So here, so this is the annual maxima, water level and the peak river discharge. When both of these at together can create an extreme impact. But how? So here, if you take the central behavior, so high coastal water level and the high river discharge, so at the central or the median level, so that doesn't have a significant impact, but the impact comes when they interact at the tail level, where the number of data, the proportion of data is significantly less in number. So the complete dependence does not give a clear picture of the risk, but it is the upper tail dependency, so that create a significant impact. So complete dependence measure may not be adequate for assessing the risk of the multivariate extreme. So this is a multivariate hazard. So this is the climate driver 1 at the x-axis and the climate driver 2 at y-axis. So this is a bivariate consideration. Now, as we increase the number of covariate, the risk can be significantly large. But to show it easy way, so we can present a bivariate. So when one hazard and the other hazard interacting together, so that may lead to a black swan event. So the weather and climate events on this side. So this is the multivariate hazard component, and the black swan event is shown here because the predictability of the event. So if it is a the predictability of the event is very difficult to identify, it can be shown to assume as a black swan event, and its synonym or this whichever this predictability can be easily understood, so that can be a gray swan event. But if it is a record breaking event, the challenges lie in estimating the tail probability of the. So now the next thing is the climate risks, heat waves and drought. So the India heat waves, so this is, it lost around 2,500 people lives. So now if we see the risk landscape from 1986 to 2015 over the past 30-year episode, every year there is a concurrence of the drought and the heat waves. Now, how to estimate the risk in this case? A probabilistic scenario can be helpful in this way. So, where the duration of the drought and the severity of the event has a clear linkage together. So, when there is a duration of the drought, and the severity, since there is a non-linear relationship exists between the two, and then we can build a probabilistic model using the duration as a conditional variable to predict the severity of the event for a given return period. So the return period here is the accident's probability that when the event is going to reoccur, or the chance that when the event is going to reoccur next. So, so based upon this, we can also establish or build a ensemble prediction model for the drought. So, consider which one is very more useful for the agricultural point of view, since in most of the machine learning algorithm can give a point forecast model, but in point forecast we cannot get a the risk or the confidence interval. So here, so we apply the non-linear relationship between these two attributes, the duration and the severity of the event, to get an ensemble risk formulation using bootstrapping method to get the confidence interval of these events. So at the transitional subtropic zone, which is located between these two between these two latitudinal belt. So in the transitional climate region, where the strength of dependence is significantly strong, And in the mid latitude region and also in the tropical region, the strength of dependency is a little bit fade away. So this is because in the transitional climate region, so we find that the climate is more or less stable, so there is no much seasonal fluctuation as opposed to the intertropics or the mid latitude region. So that leads to a stronger strength of dependence in the subtropical region. Now, so this is a case of the drought field where there is a low precipitation and the high temperature can affect the drought occurrence. The next is the flood where it is the excess or the surplus of the event. So the compound impact of the paired hazard can be analyzed using a simple graph-based relation. So at each point, so this is the node shows the tide gauge and the river gauge location. So graph based relationship between the high coastal water level and the river discharge can be established. Then edges shows the strength of dependency between each of these characteristics. Now, there is a compounding impact of the hazard that can be analyzed, so, using this graph-based structure. So now, coming to the first case, how the power law scaling relationship affect the drought hazard identification or the amplification with respect to the dependence. So here the return period differences is shown. So if each of these attribute, that severity and duration is considered to be dependent with each other. So the JRP independence is calculated considering each of the severity and duration are independent to each other, and the dependence is considered by simple copula based multivariate drought hazard model. Now the amplification is considered the JRP, that is the joint return period, assuming the independence of the two attribute, and joint return period considering the dependence between the two attribute. Now if we can get a power law scaling relationship between the two. So here in the x-axis shows the dependence and the y-axis is the amplification. And larger the lambda value or the amplification factor, the larger is the amplification of. Coming to the how the machine learning and the big data can account the non-stationarity and this deep uncertainty. So by Overpeck et al. In the Science Journal, they have shown as we are moving towards the verge of the 21st century, so the more data, more and more data is coming up. The larger the data is coming up, so it is very difficult to assess all this or analyze, and also the storage is also a kind of a problem. But we are not actually analyzing the entire data, but from the very big data we take up a small amount of data which actually impart in the hazard calculations. So this is a climate cycle where there is a in the shift in the mean and the locational and the location shift in the seasonal maxima can be shown. So here it is in the mean climate state, but if there is a significant shift in the left and the right, so that creates the hazard modulation. So that we show here. So this is in the Mahanadi River Basin, so located in the eastern India. So between the 1971 to 2016, so more than 30 years record. So here, so all the data, the daily stream flow value may not be usable, so we calculate the annual maxima event from the daily stream flow data. We computed the trend using the simple Mankendal trend statistics with a correction for the tie and autocorrelation, and we found that it is the central part of the basin which has the larger increasing probability or the increasing trend in the flood risk as compared to the upper basin. Now we also try to find out what could be due to the climate, how the climate is a shift in the flood date. So in the upper part of the basin there is an later occurrence of the flood as compared to the rest of the basin. So that means the flood, the date of the timing of the flood is also showing some kind of a shift as compared to the mean or the mean climate state. So that means the machine learning should take into account of this shifting and the non-stationarity behavior for the understanding of the risk. Now, it is the blending of the physics and data with guided data mining techniques. So this is the timing of the flood across the Mahanadi catchment. So this we analyzed using the circular statistics. So here we found that from the June to September, so there is a it is actually the late occurrence of the during the monsoon, the late monsoon period, where there is a timing of the flood. So all are concentrated in the basin. So now if we try to think about how the predictability of the flood timing is linked with the catchment wetness. So here we analyze this association between the catchment wetness and the flood timing using simple Kendall-Stowe or the dependence matrix. So here you can find a strong positive association. So this catchment wetness is nothing but the soil moisture. So the wetter is the soil, so the larger is the tendency that it build up the soil moisture level and the flood timing. So here, so 0 is the date of occurrence of the flood event, and back to this is the uh, this one is the up to a month of occurrence of the flood. We can see a strong positive association between the timing of the flood. So if we go back, so because of the stronger soil moisture memory, so the flood timing is also can be positively associated with the catchment wetness even a month back to the timing of the flood event. So that means there is a clear relation exists between the flood timing and the catchment wetness. Now coming to the how the non-stationarity and the deep uncertainty uh, help in the 21st century climate projection. So the climate is actually the boundary value problem, and it can take place at a century scale, and the weather is a kind of initial value problem. So the main challenges lie in the decadal prediction. In the decadal prediction can somehow lie between a week to at a month time scale. So here it is a sources of uncertainty. So if we see at in the time snap analysis in the sources of uncertainty, so it is the red part is the internal climate variability, and the green part is the RCP scenario spread, and the model structural uncertainty is the blue part. So if we go along the decadal time scale, so if we restrict ourselves somewhere here around 2030, you can see that it is the internal climate variability that impart the larger sources of uncertainty as compared to the model structural uncertainty. So here if we do a design of experiment with 30 different model and 30 different initial condition runs, so which are available at the uh, climate archive, so in the SEMI5 climate archive. So it also varies, the uncertainty also varies along the temperature, the mean temperature, that is the variable. It is also sensitive towards the variable you analyzed. So now in the top panel it shows the mean temperature, and in the bottom panel it shows the mean precipitation. Now how the fraction of total variance. So this is at a global scale, the global land, the North American scale, and at each location at the city scale. So that a global arena, you can find that the sources of uncertainties larger contribution comes from the multimodal spread, and at the regional scale in the temperature scale, the internal climate variability that shows substantial impact. Now if you see at the bottom panel, so in the bottom panel you can find that it is in the global and also at the regional scale. So now the fraction of uncertainty because of the internal climate variability is significantly large for the precipitation case as compared to the temperature case. So in the precipitation case, for the regional scale, the fraction the contribution of uncertainty because of the internal climate variability is significantly large here. So that we calculated earlier. and this shows the overall risk in a scenario. So this is the present day scenario, and this is the future run. So here the challenges of the machine learning algorithm can come. So here we took all the model as an aggregate, so considering all the realization together. So and we try to find out how much is the power production is exposed to the risk component. So here the water stress level was computed. So if you see at the present day conditions, so most of the major part of the United States are not at a risk. But if we consider the future scenario, the major part of the central United States shows the red color. So that means water stress is considerably high in this. This is the stress category for different domain, so that we can try to find out or to delineate. The last part is how the compound cost is a more challenging, and the delineation of these challenges. So here the compound coastal flood is the flood because of the at the coast, and the flood is because of the river discharge at the inland. When both of these flood interact together, so that create an extreme impact than individual of each of these flood solely. So now what could be a typical challenges for the projection or of this kind of a risk? So this for uncertainty can stem from various sources. So one is the suite of climate model and the numerical model run, like hydrologic and hydrodynamic model run, and the bias correction, because all the climate models are at a coarser resolution than the which is of not of interest for the stakeholder. To get into the stakeholder point of view, we need to get a certain kind of a post and a pre-bias correction. Now the challenges lie in estimating the tail probability, that's a multivariate hazard. So the how this both the river and the coastal flood interact at the tail or the joint tail level. So that lies a major challenges preserving all the strength of dependence between these two on attribute. Now other challenge is the major contributor is the localized sea level rise projection. So that is one of the major contributor of the changes in the coastal flood risk. So on the top of this, the strength of dependence, there is a SLR that contribute the coastal flood. This strength of dependence, we try to joint return period of without considering the sea level rise. So here you can find that if you do not consider the sea level rise, so that in hazard is actually decreasing in all over the land mass. But with consideration of the sea level rise, that you can see this the hazard is significantly large at the lower low lying area of the of the continent as compared to the rest of the location. Now here the interquartile range of the projected joint return period. So here you can see the individual climate model run and their multi-model scenario. So with consideration of the sea level rise, there is a significantly increase in the hazard, which was not realized if we only consider the peak river discharge and the high coastal water level. So that means that there is a significant increase of the risk at to the challenges and the possible way forward. So there some of these challenges that I discuss here. The environmental risk modeling is not appropriate if we do not consider the causality or dependency between a multiple interacting variable. The second one, inter and intra-model dependency between the GCM and RCM realization has not been considered, which open up the further research avenues. So for example, so in the power plant risk, so that in that example we took all the model together, and we didn't consider the dependency between each of these climate model realization and their the multi-model and with the individual the GCM or the RCM run. So high dimensional machine learning tools like Manifold and the Bayesian graphical models may have the potential to further delineate the risk and also reducing the uncertainty of this different climate model run. So most of the guidelines for risk assessment are solely based upon the individual drivers like river flood and the coastal flood. So for again, if we take this thing, the drought as well as the and water scarcity and heat waves. So most of the guidelines, so the city at city level, so whatever the alert we get is mostly based upon the heat wave alert. But along with that, the water scarcity or uh, the alert is we do not get. So no unified guidelines exist for compound hazard or the risk assessment perspective. Now, overall, the uncertainty in climate realization dominate the forecast uncertainty. Improved physics-based data-driven decision framework may help to narrow down the projection uncertainty that could be useful for the future sustainable society. Now, so this is the last slide. So here, this is extreme events, so unpredictable and the massive impact. And this one is if it is the mean climate state or the certainty can be shown. Thank you.